Hey, welcome to another Lunch with Jim and A.Ron, Friday, April 10th edition. 5 days left to file your taxes. Did you know that, Jim?
I think we're in trouble.
What was I going to say? So we got a couple things to talk about today. I'm going to talk about rural Indiana, mushroom hunting, going clear, and I have a fabulous transition into those topics.
I hope so.
We also have the Q&A app open, and let me get it going on our end. So if you've got any comments or stuff to talk about while we are talking, they don't have to be in relation to anything we're talking about. If they're not in relation, they'll probably be till towards the end of the thing before we get to them, but we will get to them. So there we go. Before we do that, should we talk a little bit about what we've been doing behind the scenes of Bald Move?
Yeah, why not?
Can I talk about the thing we did yesterday that wasn't justified? Not any details, just the fact that we started. I think that would be exciting.
Okay.
We start.
No details.
You know
we're
what?
not sure how this is going to turn out.
You talk about it. I'll just sit on my hands and cover my mouth.
I don't think it's any secret that we like True Detective.
Well, it's out now. Yeah. There, you said it.
Season 2 preview came out, and we decided it was high time. And they announced the date of season 2, which scared the shit out of me because we wanted to go back and cover season 1 before we did.
Is it May or June?
It's in June. I think it's June 21st.
Good.
Or something. So we realized, we don't have a lot of time to do that. And we started working on that yesterday.
Yesterday is a day long remembered. It'll be remembered as the day we kicked off our True Detective season 1 coverage, with the goal of having, these coming out in the weeks right up to this True Detective season 2. Because what better way to get ready for season 2?
Yeah.
Even though they're not related at all in terms of story than to cover season 1. What did you think of the trailer?
I thought it was fine.
I thought it was fine, but something Dee said kind of took me back. She said that she wasn't excited for it based on the, what really grabbed her in the.
I wasn't excited for season 1 based on
I
the trailer.
was, you asshole. Based on the gothic, she said the gothic Southern look to it. And I guess, I don't know, there was something kind of really mythic and epic about the pre-publicity shots of Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
In a way
they had a style that this one didn't.
This is more Beastie Boys Sabotage music video as far as the aesthetic.
Okay.
Which might be fine. And I loved what I saw from Rachel McAdams in it.
I liked what I saw from Colin Farrell, frankly. I
thought Colin Farrell looked cool,
surprisingly
too.
Big Colin Farrell fan.
Yeah.
A surprisingly small Vince Vaughn fan.
Yeah.
Colin Farrell has done a lot of really quirky and different stuff as of late, and I'm super happy about that, and I hope that extends into this. Not that he needs to be a quirky character necessarily, but that, he started off as kind of like action hero, leading man type stuff.
I don't know, because I feel like Colin Farrell's always done really interesting things.
I don't know. Do you consider The Recruit interesting? Like, he played opposite Al Pacino as just generic FBI guy who the plot of that was fairly interesting. Yeah. Right. But I don't know that his character was interesting at all.
Sure.
And that he's gotten into more interesting stuff in recent times. Like Horrible Bosses. My God. The character he plays in that is ridiculous, but I like it.
Speaking of Colin it's not speaking at all, except for he was in, he played a terrible villain in a Daredevil adaptation. Daredevil dropped for Netflix last night, and I've heard from folks who've seen a couple episodes says it's really good. I know you don't give a shit because you're not a comic book fan.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty excited about, and the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to get around to seeing it till like maybe next Wednesday.
Oh no.
Yeah, right. Well, goddamn you. Like I said yesterday,
you gotta wait a whole week.
I hope there is something that you are passionate about that I can shit on in a public forum. I cannot wait.
How about my passionate hate for Vince Vaughn's constant smirk? How about that? I misplaced, like, it doesn't belong in the scenes I saw him in. He pushes a guy and then he's like,
well, the good news is we're not getting the bloated phoning in Vince Vaughn. It looks like he's actually trying in this.
I think you're right, and I hope he does. But God, can the guy not do anything that isn't wry?
Well, I know I can't. George L is super excited about our True Detective coverage, and right. I'm excited about it too. What else? So the other thing that came out last night is Louis, new season of Louis, and it is bonkers. And a lot of people are like, well, why don't you do a comedy roundup? And I just, after I watched that, it was really good, but I don't know how and what I would comment about it, because there's something just kind of dangerous about Louis and subversive that I wouldn't feel comfortable talking in a public forum about anything.
Huh. That he gets away with because he's a comedian?
I don't even know that he gets away with it, because he got a lot of shit for some of his takes last year. I'm just saying that, like, I think that doing Louis is a fairly brave thing to do, just because it is not in anyone's comfort zone.
And like Eugene, you are a cowardly man, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, essentially. I'm not a brave man.
Huh. Okay. I'm kind of with you. A lot of the topics that he brings up, I know nothing about. A lot of stuff with his kids. What the fuck am I going to say about that? And B, yeah, they're difficult to talk about because they're, they're things that happen to people in life, but they're the uncomfortable things.
Sure.
They're the things that no one really knows how to handle. And to try to take that and put it on a podcast seems like a step further in the uncomfortable direction.
Yeah. And most other comedies, it's just like, if you really think about what a comedy podcast would look like, it kind of goes down like, the Chris, was it Chris Farrell? The really fat guy from SNL? Chris Farley. His interview style. Like, remember when this...
Exactly.
It was really funny, right? Yeah, it was super funny.
Yeah, if you take our Better Call Saul podcast and remove all the interesting plot discussion, it'd be like, oh, I really like that scene, like where he gets the garbage dumped on his head.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And the poopy diaper fell on him.
I'm glad I heard you say that.
Super good. Bob Odenkirk, what a funny guy. Tyler Shumway, my rating partner in Destiny, said, have you guys seen In Bruges? I enjoyed Colin Farrell quite a bit in that. Ralph Fiennes is the best, though. I have not seen that, but it's kind of one of those lists where I would like to see it. I think that's the one where, isn't it the Gleason guy? Is it Dan or Glenn Gleason?
What Gleason?
I don't know. He's like the chubby redheaded guy. He played a villain in one of the Mission Impossible. He played Mad Eye Moody in Harry Potter, which I know doesn't help you out. But yeah, no, I think they're playing two hitmen. They're hiding out in Bruges.
It's not Joffrey?
It's not Joffrey.
Okay.
But I'm excited to see that. What was I going to get to? So this weekend, it's my nephew's birthday party, and he wanted, among other things, a boomerang. So I went on Amazon and I got 2 boomerangs.
So you went to Australia?
No,
came back with a boomerang.
I got like a high-end wooden one that actually has an instruction booklet and all that kind of stuff. And then I also got like a foam Nerf one that I think he actually will have no problems handling. But if he's really into it and he wants to get into a nice one, then he's got the nice one as well. Oh, and they were cheap. Like the high end one is like $15 with an instructional booklet and everything.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can get, handcrafted by Crocodile Dundee, dirigidy-doo editions that are upwards of $100 made out of the finest obsidian that you can kill a kangaroo from 500 paces. But, that's not that one. But
I really want to know the history of the boomerang, like why it was invented, what purpose it served at that point.
So I guess I actually have done
the history of the. Oh my god!
The original Aboriginal. The Aboriginal boomerangs were like big, heavy L-shaped deals.
Okay.
That were designed for killing, and they
like hand-to-hand combat killing.
No,
like throwing and killing,
like hunting. So, and you would kind of like throw them like like just a heave style, and they didn't understand why this worked as aerodynamic principle, but it would glide, and if it was you caused blunt force trauma to a koala bear or whatever.
That poor koala.
And I guess the modern ones that returned evolved from that for like used for hunting birds and things. Like, so you'd set up a net around the bird, and then you'd use that as like something that would scare them, and they would like fly up into the net and the guys, and it would come back to your general vicinity, so you wouldn't lose it in the brush.
Okay, not like you had to hit a flying bird at 1,000 yards.
No. It's essentially like something to make them startle and fly up so you could net them.
Okay.
And kind of drive them in a general direction.
Gotcha.
So they were all for hunting, maybe warfare, although it seems like you know, whoever invented the bow and arrow on the Australian subcontinent would murder people coming at him with the big heavy battle boomerangs, but whatever.
How big are the battle boomerangs?
They're the ones I've seen, like I guess prehistoric ones are like, you know, if you set them on the ground, they would come up to like my nipple area.
Jesus.
No, they're big. They're big.
All right.
Because you have to, you know, they're heavy blunt force trauma type things. Anyway, so we were going to go to have a birthday party at my sister's house, and my grandfather's been old and sick for this past year. Well, he's been old for a while. He just got sick this last year, and he's got this farm down in Spencer, Indiana. And he was talking, I guess, over the winter, how he's worried about not being able to take care of it and as much as he's used to. So the family decided on this weekend to go down and get the farm like ready for the year. So my sister decided to consolidate the birthday party down to the cleanup effort. So they're going to do, you know, all the cousins will be there anyway. You can have the cake and the gifts, and then you also can clean up and kids can play in wood. Also, this is prime mushroom hunting season. I don't know if you knew this, but in Midwest, there's a particular species of mushroom.
Truffles, black truffles.
No, it's called morel. Let me see if I can find a picture of these delectable things.
Morels. Huh?
Or, oops, this is the wrong keyboard. Always gets me. I gotta switch this fucking Mac keyboard. Morel. Why is it not working, man? Oh,
I think there's a lag.
Bullshit. Is this because it's not penetrating through the steel table?
It could be.
Anyway, morel mushrooms. There we go. Oh, look at these fuckers.
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting looking. Can you throw one of those up on the screen?
I'm gonna try. I think with our live watch technology, we can make this happen. Let's remove that. Add a screen capture area of roughly this size. Boink.
Right. I'm gone.
Yeah.
God damn it.
You've been consumed by the shrooms.
Not the first time.
There we go. Yeah, so turnabout's fair play, Jim Jones.
Not the first time, not the last time.
These are morel mushrooms, and you hunt them by essentially walking through any kind of heavily wooded area. And as you can tell, the reason they're primarily hard to find is because they've got an interesting texture and they really match in with the forest floor.
I hunt them with boomerangs.
Yeah, well, it's good because you get them, you cut them off at the stock, and you really get mass chaos.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm hoping.
Do they taste like any other mushroom?
No,
truffles have like an oil in them that makes them especially delicious.
These things are kind of light, and they have a very firm texture and a nutty flavor.
Yeah,
more of like a kind of a mild walnut.
Yeah.
And what we do is we soak them in a brine solution for 24 to 48 hours to first of all to kind of flavor them, but also to drive all the bugs and shit. You would not believe the shit that comes out of the brine solution when you brine them up.
Yeah.
And then we bread them and fry them.
Okay.
And they go for about 100 pounds or 100 bucks a pound during the season because they only grow from like mid-March to mid to late May, and then they're gone.
You need to start a mushroom farm.
Yeah, I've researched the matter, and it turns out that these don't do well. They don't domesticate, and I'm not sure why. There's a bunch of theories about why, but anyway, I'm hoping to get a pound or two to bring back because my girlfriend's never had them. My son's never had them. I haven't been to the farm in like 3 or 4 years at this point, so I'm pretty excited to go back. Here's where the segue to Going Clear, the Scientology documentary we saw, comes into.
Okay.
My brother and my mother are going to be at this family throw-in to clean up the farm situation, and they do not know that we are simultaneously celebrating my nephew's birthday.
Do they know that you're going to be there?
I mean, that's always a danger of like the big family things is running into them, but like I don't give a shit. Like, it doesn't intimidate me.
But your mom will.
Yeah, and I don't know what she's going to do, whether she'll leave or whether she'll just like go for a long walk while we're doing it and not acknowledge this thing's happening.
I mean, it's almost the perfect storm of religious bullshit.
Sure.
Religious nervousness is the birthday party / disfellowshipped relative combo.
So if you don't know, Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate birthdays. They don't celebrate
any holidays, period. Zero.
Wedding anniversaries are really the only thing they kind of get together and celebrate.
Okay. Yeah.
As a congregation or even as a family. Everything else, and there is a form of Easter they call Memorial that they celebrate on Good Friday, but they do it according to the Jewish calendar. So it's like,
that's the only one like actual real holiday.
Yeah.
Like if you compare it to Easter that they would celebrate.
But even then they have a weird twist on it. And then when they pass the bread and the wine, only people that they think are going to heaven, because most witnesses don't believe they're going to heaven. They believe they're going to inherit paradise earth.
I don't believe most witnesses are going to heaven either.
I suspect they're not. But they think only 144,000, most of whom they think are been dead over the last 20 centuries. So you got this weird spectacle where the way the averages work out is like there's one quote unquote anointed heaven going person eating bread and wine for every 4 or 5 congregations. So in a lot of congregations, you pass the bread and wine and no one eats. The entire congregation passes the bread, passes the wine, and no one partakes.
And they dump the wine, they throw the bread in the trash.
And then you in the dumpster, Christ's body and his blood get thrown in the dumpster, and there you go.
That's a distinguishing factor. They don't believe that it is literally his body and his blood.
But that's not
unlike Catholicism, which does.
Yeah, they did the whole transubstantiation. So anyway, that's going to be interesting, and that kind of segues us into discussion of going clear, because you and I both saw it, and it had a profound impact on us.
Yeah, I saw it a little over a week ago, I think.
Like most people, because it came out a little over a week ago.
Well, I was a little late to the party. Like maybe
I saw it the next day.
So days.
Yeah.
Everybody was saying how good it was, and I still had yet to watch The Jinx at that point. And so I blasted through the other 5 episodes or whatever I had of that. Then got to Going Clear. That was a 1-2 punch documentary series right there.
Sure. It's interesting because like Scientology is like they have more outside the mainstream crazy religious beliefs than Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses have a lot of crazy beliefs, but you always boil it down. You've got a monotheistic God, you've got his son that died for us, and you've got some kind of eternal reward in afterlife. Where Scientology it seems more just made up. It's
Lord Xenu sent a bunch of people down to Earth due to overpopulation, put them in volcanoes, blew them up with nukes, and now they roam the countryside as body thetans and shit.
Right, and you have to essentially exercise these things through these e-meters and these auditing and all that stuff. And it's sparked a lot of conversation about cults. I've seen on our forums and on Facebooks, and people are kind of debating and talking about it. I thought it's interesting as a former Jehovah's Witnesses watching a Scientology documentary, how much I identified with the people talking, and especially the last 30 minutes where they talk about the Scientologists call it disconnection, witnesses call it disfellowshipping. It's excommunication.
Yeah,
and it's essentially where your family and your loved ones no longer will speak to you or have any kind of dealings with you. And it's a really effective control mechanism, because if you're involved in that, if you're involved in either of the religions long enough, you kind of lose all your friends to the exclusion of the religion, because Jehovah's Witnesses are very demanding with your time and who you associate with. And you don't do, I kind of suspect most of the reasons they stop celebrating holidays is because it furthers severances of your familial and friendship ties.
Yeah. They want you to be isolated. What they call no part of the world, which means basically all of your interactions with people,
right,
as much as possible. You have to go out in the real world to do your grocery shopping and shit.
Right.
But as much as possible, they try to keep your interactions within the congregation, within the society.
I don't understand why we cannot, as a civilized Western society, do more to crack down on religion. Like somebody said in the documentary, it's like, well, if the FBI ever came into the Hole, which is this penal colony, like this is more extreme than anything I've heard from the witnesses. The witnesses have slave labor camps, sure. And being sent home from one is kind of a bad thing, but you get paid nothing, but you're well fed and well clothed, and you're not really beat, and you're given adequate medical care and all that stuff. But someone said that like if FBI ever raided this, everyone at the facility would be like, oh, there's no abuse, everything's fine. We like living in this roach infested, leaking hellhole. But it seems to me like it seems an established matter of law that you cannot consent to human rights violations, right? That's one of the tricky things about BDSM. Like if your thing is getting tied up and whipped and the authorities get involved, they're going to treat that like abuse, even if you've got like signed contracts and the person says, no, I like it this way. You know, I don't know how it happens in practice, but the legal reality is there's a lot of things where you can get in trouble there. Why isn't religion the same thing? Why can't the FBI raid that facility, see human rights abuses going on, and shut it down?
Have they tried? Like, I don't know that they can't.
Well, the weird thing is they also, in the documentary, the Scientologists beat the IRS.
Yeah, I was going to go there.
Go there.
That seems like, it honestly seems like in some ways the government is afraid to crack down on this, not because they don't think they can or they have the right or anything, but the legal hell that will come along with it in the form of legal harassment. But
it seemed like the main harassment is the individual Scientologists filed in mass thousands and thousands of lawsuits against the federal government. Why? That it's essentially a legal denial of service attack. Why can't the federal government deal with that some way? Like you'd think like, okay, we're going to take these thousands of individual suits and treat them as a class action and then summarily dismiss them or whatever. Like it felt like they were kind of helpless in the face of this. And I'm like, that is scary to me, that a powerful, motivated, ideologically crazy organization can bring the federal government to heel whenever it wants to.
Yeah, I don't know, because I'm not sure. I don't know enough about the legal system and what powers the government would have for something like that to comment intelligently about it. So I won't comment on it, other than to say that's what happened. They basically got their tax-exempt status, their religious status from a campaign of harassment, which seems to be their MO.
Yeah.
Anybody who talks bad about them, anybody who dares to come out and say that they are a cult or that bad things are being done there, they go after them in very personal ways, including, you know, not if not outright threatening, then certainly harassing the family members.
Sure.
Doing really, really terrible things to people.
Yeah. Like campaigning outside their houses, and like if you and I spoke out against Scientology, which come and get us, motherfuckers.
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
They would come outside of our apartment complex and they'd wear T-shirts with our picture on it that says child molester, or hand out leaflets like, did you know what your neighbors are doing? And it would be full of lies and a bunch of other bullshit, but that's disturbing. Like, you know,
I suppose so. I mean, I see,
because your neighbors are thinking, why would they be doing all this effort if this wasn't true? You know?
Sure.
And it's a chilling effect for sure.
Yeah, no, it's kind of effective. And that's the thing about this documentary at the end that really impresses me, is the way that these people were brave enough to, knowing the situation they were putting themselves in, come out and talk about it.
Right.
Especially these celebrities. I mean, what's his name? The guy from Californication, the dude who runs around naked all the time. No. It's some other guy who you wouldn't probably recognize.
Okay.
He used to be a Scientologist, and he's coming out and he's talking against them, and you know, he's giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to these people. Sure. And you know, he feels like a fool afterward. And I think it's exceptionally brave of him to come out and say the things he's saying about this organization in the face of what he knows could probably happen to him.
Sure. I want to take this question from George Lampman because it's kind of a springboard into further conversation. It says, how much do you think the internet will help people getting out of these cults in the future? It's an interesting question because undoubtedly the internet is a huge help, especially for people avoiding falling into the cults.
Yeah, I think it'll help a lot.
But people that are in the witnesses, and I assume Scientology is the same way, is that it's beat into your head that worldly wisdom, which is anything that doesn't come within the organization, is bad. And you can be excommunicated for exploring, like if you, like say,
apostate literature.
And it's a very 1984 thing, because if you're married and your wife or your husband catches you with apostate, you know, anti-Jehovah's Witnesses material in your bookmarks folder, you can be brought up in front of a judicial committee, which is a tribunal, kangaroo tribunal of 3 elders, and summarily excommunicated for just that. So and there's the whole, like, if you're a genuine believer, you also want to, you don't want to do anything that risks, Satan deceiving you and these apostates pouring lies in your ears. And like right now, the witnesses are weathering this storm of child abuse accusations because there is merit to it. Essentially, there's a lot of really weird, like witnesses went through and threw out everything in the Reformation. And there's this man that came out of like the millennial movement back in the mid 1850s or the mid 1800s. And they're just like clean the table and like, we're just going to do a plain reading of the Bible and reinvent Christianity based on that. Mm-hmm. So they take a lot of really obscure biblical passages and base things. Like there's something in Deuteronomy about like, if you have a dispute with your brother, you go talk to him privately. If you can't set the matter straight, then you come back with 2 witnesses to the older men, and they'll get down to the bottom of it. And if there's not 2 witnesses, then you just have to wait for the Lord to reveal justice in His own time. Well, that's all well and good if you're talking about a business contract or somebody doing some just minor gossip or whatever. If you're a child that's been molested, how many witnesses do you think there are to a child being molested by their father or their uncle or some creepy dude in the congregation? Usually not 2. Usually it's only the child. So following this judicial guidance, the parents would go to the elders and say, my kid got molested by this guy. And the elders would be like, well, we don't want to go to the worldly authorities. We don't want to drag Jehovah's name through the mud because, my God, if it got out that there was a child molester in here, think of the reproach on Jehovah's name. And they talk to the kid and they talk to the guy. And if the guy denied it, then it's like, well, what are we going to do? You just have to wait for Jehovah, brothers and sisters.
Sure.
Well, there's a lot of grown-up witness youth that have gone through a lot. Like think of the Catholic Church scandal from a decade ago, more so, and they're winning big money from the witnesses. And the witness reaction is to say all these news reports and stuff are lies and malicious gossip spread by Satan and his world. So it's like, yes, the internet helps, but it doesn't help it if you're in it. Like by the time I started looking at quote unquote apostate material, I was already out the door. I was already pretty sure I was looking to, some final proof before I blew up my entire life. Mm-hmm. But it's for a witness in good standing, there'd be no reason for them to ignore the society's direction to stay the hell off the internet. Like witnesses are encouraged to stay off of Facebook, social media.
For me, it's a little different. I feel like the internet is what. I don't know. I don't want to say got me out of it because I was never really that into it. I was in it just deep enough and just superficially enough, as a front to the other people that I could be excommunicated at the end of it.
Yeah.
But in a way, the internet kind of got me out of it because I spent a lot of my time as a youth on the internet learning things like programming, learning things like just that there was a wider world out there and that it wasn't all just what was in my church.
Yeah.
And when it came to it, and I never really believed all this shit. And eventually I did things that, that they frown on, that I don't feel are bad things.
You fucked an elder's daughter.
Yeah, basically is what it comes down to. They don't like that, it turns out. So
if I recall correctly, her father sat on your judicial committee.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was Alan, Jack, and Mike.
Oh, okay.
On mine.
It would not shock me because abuses.
He recused himself.
Abuses of it's a kangaroo court, but at least they had the decency,
some semblance,
to excuse the man's father from it. Okay, good for you.
Yeah, so things that kids do, and it's not. It's part of growing up, and it's not a big deal. And then. You get kicked out for it. But the internet had given me a foundation where I felt like I was independent enough. Like I had at that time a job that I could go to.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I was just getting kicked out into the streets, which can happen.
Yeah.
Certainly. I had like a foundation of a little bit of stability that helped me not be so afraid of it, I guess.
Oh, no, I mean, like, if you go to the ex-Jehovah's Witness group on Reddit, which is r/XJW.
But before we get out of there, Jehovah's Witnesses are also very negative on education. So if I wasn't educating myself throughout my teens, I probably would have been just kicked out with no education, go work a minimum wage job, just stuck in this hellish life because of all that.
And like, you and I were a lot alike in that I really liked science and I really liked, watching nature documentaries, and I really loved programming. And I got on the internet at a very early age before the witnesses even knew the internet existed. So I got exposed to some of the stuff, but it's like the best way I can think of it, and I don't know if you can even understand this, is to read 1984 to understand like what Winston went through in the cognitive dissonance of being confronted with something that directly and incredibly directly contradicts your worldview, but being in a system that the penalty for going along that train of thought is steep. It's essentially the destruction of everything that you know and are familiar with in life.
So you ignore it, or you hand wave it away,
or you minimize it, or he's like, well, that's an exaggeration, or whatever. So did the internet help us get out of the Jehovah's Witness thing? I don't think so. I mean, the things that got me out of, I read a couple of books that had some things that got me kind of pulling at some doubts. There's a major prophecy that the witnesses changed their doctrine on in about 2001 that I was like, one of those things where it's a cornerstone where I'm like, well, if this is all true, then, it's only a matter of time. Like I even thought back in the day, like if I am still a witness in 2014 and Armageddon's not here, I'm peacing out. So I got out a couple years ahead of time, but I'd already set like mental like tests, and they switched this thing, and I saw it happen, and it was new light, and it was bullshit. And then it's like, well, you go through these stages of, all right, I think there's a problem here, but the majority of the stuff is right. To some of this majority stuff is shaky, but I think they got some few key things right. To all this is lies, but it's not a bad way to live. To I'm feeling trapped and I don't know what to do, but it's not worth it to never speak to my mother and my brother and all my friends and all that stuff again. Yeah. And what really the final straw to broke my camel's back is the birth of my son. Realizing that I'm either going to be pushed out, or I'm going to have to put these same control systems onto my son. Yeah. And I'm disgusting. Like, fuck it, I'm out. So it's weird as a person who's been on the internet since I was 12 years old, like when it was dial up and you had to do like PPP and you get on a BBS door and do all this bullshit, running TCP/IP stacks and stuff. The internet did not help me at all. No, it didn't, because I trained myself to stay the hell away from those. It's like they're like bad neighborhoods you don't go into. Yeah. Now I think that
it's amazing how effective those control mechanisms are. It's something you said there is, it's not a bad way to live. And I think if you're on the inside of this thing, you're having your life kind of fed to you. It's a very easy thing to go along with, because there's nothing on the face of it that's negative.
And it's like if you lose your house in a storm and you're poor, which most witnesses are. I mean, most witnesses
because they're uneducated and they're giving all of their time and money over to the church.
They're in the bottom percentiles for college. I mean, of all religions, they're in the bottom percentiles or deciles for college education and all that stuff. But the whole congregation will show up Amish style and fucking replace your roof. Yeah, like free of charge.
No, they pitch in when
you get seriously sick.
A brother in need.
You get seriously sick. They will get money to you. They will cook food for you. They will watch your kids for you.
But don't you dare have a blood transfusion.
Right. So there's a lot of things that, when you first, that's the thing. Like, my mom was in the midst of a deep depression over simultaneously losing her two grandmothers right in a row when she got knocked on the door by this little old Jehovah's Witness lady and said, my mom, you're going to see all those again in Paradise Earth, and you're all going to be young and you're going to be happy, and like you've been lied to by the religions. And she wasn't too hip on the religions, and she's at the lowest point in her life, and she became a Jehovah's Witness. And I see a lot of debate about like, well, Scientology is any worse or better than any other religion. It's all crazy. It's like, Christians saying the Scientologists are crazy are not looking themselves in a mirror. And I think that's a little offensive, because even if you think that the average person is smart enough or capable enough to get out of Scientology, you're not thinking about like drug addicts that are pushed into Narconon, which is a Scientology arm that lures you in with like some simple kind of 12-step stuff and some effective, like the intro level Scientology tech is fairly a well-established self-help type stuff that works. Yeah. And you see that working, and they're not charging big money at that phase. It's as you go up, and by the time you get to the things like Xeno and volcanoes and body thetans, you're so heavily invested that cognitive dissonance kicks in.
Yeah.
It's like, why didn't Winston just say, fuck off the big brother? Well, that's not an easy
your
question.
Life at that point.
Yeah. So it's like,
you're not just abandoning this religion, you're abandoning your life. And that's the key.
And they're also, if you look, so I think that what really opens your eyes about what's difference between a religion that you can bitch and moan about and say, oh, AIDS in Africa and Inquisition and all that, you know, and I'm right there with you. But the difference between a religion and a cult is what comes down to the BITE model. It's BITE. And it's an extensive list of behavioral information, education, and I forget what the T is, controls. And the thought control. And the thing is like this works. This hacks your brain's your evolutionary wiring to get you to conform to something that is not in your self-interest. And it doesn't happen right away. And I don't think there's anyone that's immune to it. If you were in a particular position and without the benefit of an education or information, that's the best vaccination for cults, honestly.
Yeah.
If your family loves you and you're well educated and you are a connected citizen of the world, you're probably invulnerable to a cult. But think about everybody in your life that you care about and how many of those people fit into those categories. I'm sure you can all think of friends and relatives and loved ones and people, workmates, people that fall for multi-level marketing bullshit. That's all cult stuff too.
Sure. And now what if everyone in your family is in this cult?
Right.
And everyone is telling you that this cult is the right thing.
That's the thing. Like,
how do you ever get out of
even
that?
if you have no sympathy for the stupid people to fall into it, you got to feel for the people like me and Jim who were kids. Like, I didn't choose, you know, I was busy running around in my underoos playing Superman and Star Wars when my mom was being brainwashed into a cult. And then my mom took and brainwashed me. You
I was literally born
were a fucking baby. Yeah. So it's like that's a tough thing to get out of.
Sure. So somehow I don't know. I've never really felt like I believed in anything that they told me. It just so happens that I was in that scenario.
Right.
I don't know. I don't feel like I was as deep into it as I could have been.
Right.
Had I been someone else or just gave a shit. I don't know.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I was one of Jim's best friends. I had no idea he was closetly a disbeliever.
You can't tell anybody.
I spent hours with you out in service, knocking on doors, preaching the word, doing all this shit. We all did. No one liked. You have to be an asshole to enjoy knocking on someone's doors on a Saturday morning, knowing you're getting them out of bed to talk to them about the goddamn watchtower.
Yeah.
And there are those assholes that love it.
There are. Yeah.
But I just realized we've had this shroom back room this whole time. Let's get rid of that. I forget where I was going with this.
Well, you can't tell anybody when you're in it because I mean, if I had said, I don't believe in any of this shit, that would have gotten back to the people. And the thing that ultimately did happen to me would have happened to me a lot sooner.
That's where I was going with this Reddit thing. Like every week, because I stay up on Jehovah's Witness stuff because my son is still in it now. He's 8 years old and he's already seeing it for mostly bullshit. And I haven't even had to do a lot of work because I've not, you know, I did a lot of studying and a lot of talking to therapists and, you know, it's not a good idea to just basically tell your kid from an early age that your mom's filling your head full of lies, full of bullshit and God's not real and, you know, all that stuff. So it's like, I've been passively resisting his brainwashing, and it turns out it's paid in a lot of dividends because, you know, even at an early age, he's way far ahead of me as far as seeing this for what it is and seeing the hypocrisy already as an 8-year-old and some of the stuff they're doing.
Yeah.
But I see every week on this ex-Jehovah's Witness Reddit where 15, 16-year-olds are coming and saying like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
My whole family's in it. What do I do? And there's not a thing you can say other than suck it up for 2 or 3 years, try to get a good job, move out.
Don't get baptized.
Don't get baptized. But a lot of them are already baptized.
Sure.
I was baptized
13.
at like 15.
Yeah.
Some as young as 8.
Sure. No, I think that's the best advice. Don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Don't tell anyone. Wait till you're old enough to be independent and go do your thing.
And
try to educate yourself in the meantime as much as possible. You know, be on the Reddits.
And if you know Jehovah's Witnesses, the best thing you can do is prove to them that worldly people are not a bunch of amoral, selfish assholes.
Yeah.
Because that was another blow for me, is getting out finally into the world and seeing that no, people are pretty much nice. Like, people are good. You don't want to be like, here's a bunch of apostate literature that's poison to your mind, and I'm going to try to rob you of your eternal life.
However, if you want some apostate literature, I have an amazing recommendation for you.
What's that?
Crisis of Conscience. That book, if you enjoyed Going Clear and having the people behind the religion coming out and speaking out against it, go read Crisis of Conscience, because it is the exact same thing for Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah, it was
Franz used to be a member of the governing body. The governing body is the highest circle within
There's 7
the Witness
dudes,
organization. 7
old men in New York City that run the entire Jehovah's Witness empire.
And they decide all the doctrine. They decide, in a lot of cases, who will and won't be disfellowshipped, stuff like that.
Yeah.
This guy, when he was like 60 or 70, late in his life, decided, I don't believe any of this anymore. I've seen enough atrocities within this organization.
Right.
I'm done. And then he went and wrote a tell-all book about it. Crisis of Conscience. Excellent book.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So we're kind of like at the bottom of this topic. I want to catch a couple Q&As. Anthony Basish wants to know, when did you both leave the JWs? I don't know. You just disappeared one day. You were disfellowshipped, and then I didn't get in touch with you for another like 10 years.
I didn't get disfellowshipped until I was 21. They brought me back in to kick me out.
Just when you thought you were out.
Yeah, they pulled me back in, and then they kicked me out.
It happened to me too.
Actually did.
Because I tried to fade. Because I didn't want it's such a stigma to grow up as a kid in the witness world where your dad's disfellowshipped.
Yeah.
Like, his little buddies can't come over to my house. I tried hard to make sure that didn't happen, but they fucking like private investigated my ass and collected enough information for me doing wrongdoing. Knocked on my door one day and said, hey, we got some serious allegations laid to you. And I'm like, get the fuck out of my house. And a week later, I got a phone call saying I'm disfellowshipped. So I tried to leave on very peaceable terms because I did not want to go through all of that.
No, me too. I was like, look, I'm 19. I just moved out. I'm just not going to go to meetings anymore.
Just fade away.
I'm done with the religion. Yeah. I'm out. And of course, you can't be, because, like, you know, I won't name names here, but I had a lot of friends who were doing the exact same shit I was doing, and I was still friends with them when I moved out. They'd come over, we'd party, we'd drink, we'd do all the stuff that kids do.
But then they'd get in trouble.
Then they wouldn't get in trouble.
Oh, really?
No. Because I'm not going to rat those people out, unlike some people I know. And yeah, I mean, it's just so ridiculous that you're only a problem when you're found out, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, of course it has to be that way, because how would they know? But it seems wrong that I could have all these friends that I hung out with who were in the congregation doing the same stuff that I did, and they just never got caught, so they never had any problems.
And for me, I went through a much larger crisis of faith. And I remember my first serious doubts being in like 2001. I was pretty much mentally out in 2002, 2005. Or 2004, 2005, I was a ministerial servant, a deacon, and they actually, the night they offered me the advancement to elder, I turned them down, and I said, in fact, I'm stepping down as a ministerial servant.
Oh wow! All right.
Which was a big fucking shock, but I was going to just like sit in the back of the hall and just kind of space out during the meetings. I stopped going out in service. I stopped giving talks.
Yeah.
And that was going to be my life. And then my son was born in 2006, and in 2007, I just said, I'm not going to do this. I ended up getting a divorce, and then I think in 2000, I was with you again when I actually got this fellowship. It was like 2009. They'd finally tracked me down and kicked me out.
Yeah, I think I was living in your place at that time.
Might have been when you were in Chicago. But I remember talking about like, they just came by but anyway, so it's been more recent for me than you. Thing. Yeah,
sure. Yeah. Like I said, I was kind of never really in it, but yeah, I would say when I was 19. So
George L says a guy I used to work with was Walter White, smart and cleans houses, such a waste of potential. Oh, witnesses love to fucking clean houses.
Oh yeah, they start businesses cleaning houses, because what else are they going to do?
Or washing windows, or putting stripe on cars, because then you can work part-time, make just enough money, put food on the table, and then spend the rest of your time out in the field service, knocking on doors.
You may be even special pioneer.
And
My God.
Yeah, and to what end? hundreds of millions of hours are spent knocking on doors in this fucking country. And the last I know, the rate of growth for Jehovah's Witnesses is somewhere between -2% and 0%. Like if it wasn't for them,
so there's still like 6 million.
If it wasn't for their poor family planning and reproductive control, the Jehovah's Witnesses would be double digits decline. But they fucking punch out enough new ones that.
Here's the crazy thing that you might, well, if you've seen Going Clear, you know about Scientology. There are only like 50,000 of them.
Yeah.
There are far more witnesses in this country.
About 8 million now.
Yes.
And if you count everyone that goes to the memorial, it's like 20 million.
You are way more likely to know someone in the Jehovah's Witnesses than Scientology. That blew my mind. I assumed they were much bigger given what they own and how pervasive they are within pop culture, I guess.
Yeah. Dan Gordon wonders, is the church broadly aware of Bald Move and what you guys are up to? We can begrudgingly thank them for birthing Bald Move, at least, as you guys wouldn't know each other. Yeah, it's true.
It's true. Yeah.
I don't think so, but again,
I can't imagine that they don't know.
I've heard third-hand crazy rumors told about myself, though.
Yeah.
You know,
I
because that's the thing is like I was like, I was this myth. I was a I don't know, an inspiration story, because I was this boy that was raised without a father in the truth, and I did everything right, and I was a big part of different things like from very early on. I made ministerial servant very young. I pioneered for years. I gave parts on the big summer jam conventions where we sold out stadiums and stuff.
You were in dramas.
I was in dramas with you. You're pagan. You're pagan apostate ass.
King Josiah.
That's a mind fuck. And there was no real reason for me leaving. I just left, and one day I was there, and one day I was. So I've heard a lot of people like that. I'm like big on the drugs. I got tired of having a family. I couldn't take the stress of having a wife and kids anymore. I went out. I mean. All these just outrageous lies, primarily spread by my brother and mother. And every once in a while, I'll hear back, because how the hell would they know?
You would think they would at least know you're around for your kid. My God.
Well, that's the thing that was always, but they didn't. They didn't.
Your ex doesn't.
No, I'm saying they lie. And this was the early days.
So they would know, but they would straight up lie.
Yeah, I think so. Or that I was just doing the time to hurt my ex, or to try to warp my son's mind, whatever.
Okay.
So I don't know that they know that I'm doing, but on the other hand, you and Peter were doing a podcast back when I was still Jehovah's Witness, and you guys were both out. And I listened to your podcast as a Jehovah's Witness.
Infiltrated the ranks.
I did.
Peter Dragon.
I was kind of half in, half out. So sometimes I wonder if some of my old buddies haven't heard about this podcast and don't secretly listen from time to time, and what they think of it. The other thing is,
few people that I know about it.
Like I was at a PAX one year within a big group, and we're just talking talking about gamers, and some dude walked by and he had a Jehovah's Witness protection program t-shirt on, and I'm like, oh, cool shirt. I used to be a Jehovah's Witness, and he did too. And some dude just like turned and walked off, and everybody's looking sheepish. Like, what's the deal? He goes, oh, well, he's a Jehovah's Witness. And I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. You're at a video game convention.
I don't know how he got away with it. He must have told his parents he was out in field service,
out studying the Bible or something. I'm like, you pig fucker. He's got
his suit in his backpack. He's going to put it on before he goes home.
Yeah. So it's, you never know. I often wonder, like, there's probably witnesses, because I was kind of, my mom was very strict, even more so than most witnesses. I couldn't watch magic cartoons. I couldn't play violent video games. I couldn't watch, anything that's rated over PG.
I was there too.
And when I got out on my own, I started saying like, well, I'm not going to go crazy, but I'm going to watch some of like the great rated R movies, because I'm an adult and I don't think it'll corrupt to me.
Yeah.
And I kept it on the down low. Because that was always the biggest fear. You go see a rated R. If you you come out walking out of a rated R movie and another Jehovah's Witness sees you, you're fucked.
Well, no, it's mutual assured destruction, though, right?
No, I'm saying they're walking out of fucking Bambi 2. You're walking out of Pulp Fiction. What are you here to see, brother? Hubbard. Bambi 2. You didn't see me back there? It's horseshit. It's 1984.
But okay. That's what the caveat that watching R-rated movies are not something you can actually get disfellowship for. They
you
will
get marked.
Yes, they will mark you. Meaning they will take away your privileges. They will mark
publicly
you as
ostracize
a bad person.
You won't get invited to like people's dinners,
but you can still communicate with your family and all the stuff you were.
Yeah, it's like disfellowship light.
Before. Yeah,
you're on probation.
It's the warning.
Yeah.
But that's one of the few offenses that are like that.
But I often wonder, like, there's
smoking a cigarette is
like if I was A.Ron 10 years ago and I really liked Breaking Bad, and like, of course you're not going to talk about this in field service or at the meeting, and I found Bald Move podcast and I'm just like, oh yeah, these guys are funny and they swear and that's kind of funny because that's a novel. That's the other thing is that people think I swear a lot. It's because I'm making up for lost time. I probably said like 4 or 5 swear words by the time I was 20 in my entire life. So maybe by the time I'm 45, 50, it'll even out and I'll go back to like a normal person. But right now I got a pretty filthy fucking mouth. And then like they're just listening to our podcast and then suddenly, bam, we hit the fact we're ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, we're disfellowshipped. That must blow their mind. And we're big enough
right
that
here, like if they're watching now.
Not now, but like we've made reference to it enough. Yeah. And I'm almost certain with how many witnesses there are in the United States and around the world that that's happened at least once. And I would love to know.
You'll never know.
Like, for example, we got someone in here
listening to our apostate bullshit.
We got someone in here that She Is Geeky. She's an ex-Jehovah's Witness.
Yes. Yeah, I knew that.
Let's see what she says. In my case, the internet is helping me realize where some things I still find challenging are coming from. My mom got into Jehovah's Witnesses when I was in 2nd grade, and even though I got out in my teens, I'm just now at the age of 49 realizing how things had affected. Yeah. So I've got a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witness friends on Facebook, and I came out intellectually. But there's a lot of people like you that they're teenagers and they really believed in Jehovah's Witness stuff, but they did stupid stuff that teenagers do, like have sex, drink alcohol, smoke weed. They get kicked out, but mentally they think they're doomed. Yeah, like I've had several friends,
and there is a path back in. I mean, I don't want to. They make it, not easy to get back in, but you can do it.
You have to go to a congregation meeting and not miss any meetings.
Yeah,
for like 6 months to a year, depending on how severe it was that you got out. Then you got to write a letter for
and you're doing this all the time, feeling intense shame.
No one will make eye contact with you.
No one will speak to you. Nothing.
You come into the meetings and you're a non-person for 6 months.
And we had like a lobby area in our hall where those people would kind of go and stand and be at the meeting, but not have to be in the congregation.
Sure. And then you write a letter begging the elders, this is why I fucked up. This is why I won't do it again. Please, please, please let me back in. Then usually you're assigned an elder or somebody to study the Bible with you for a couple of months to make sure it's sincere. And then they will announce that you're on the night that you're announced that you're reinstated, you get fucking love bombed.
Sure.
Everyone that has not talked to you for however long it's been comes up and gives you a big hug and says, welcome back. And I'm so glad I got my sister or brother back. And it's such horseshit, man.
It is.
But a lot, you don't understand, like for witnesses that got kicked out for moral reasons and are still mentally in, every single time there's a war, every single time there's a terrorist attack, every single time there's the Ebola scare, it's potentially, oh fuck, this is Armageddon and I've waited too long and now I want to be executed. And it's
not just that too. I mean, like for someone who doesn't even believe in the shit that they were teaching me, it's affected me in ways that I don't yet realize, like She's Geeky is saying.
Sure.
There are certain, I don't know, my social connections have been stunted, certainly. And it's not just that, it's things like you feel guilty about a lot of stuff that you shouldn't feel guilty about, that are normal human things, that are so distorted by that religion that you just can't feel normal about them until you figure out, okay, here's why I'm feeling bad about this. Here's the reasons I shouldn't feel bad about it. And you got to kind of work through that. And I think it just takes time.
No, I went through
even if you're not that deeply in it. So people who are, like you, who've thoroughly believed it for so long, I can't even imagine.
I mean, I went through 3.5 years of therapy to get over those things because it's and it's just so many hangups about sex and politics. Like you're not allowed to vote. You're not allowed to pledge the allegiance. You're not supposed to, like, if you're at a sporting event and it's all rise for the pledge of or the national anthem, you're supposed to sit. Imagine what that's like in the fucking heartland of America. You're at a Colts game I always dreaded it. I'm like, oh God, they're going to do this thing. And like 60,000 people are going to rise and I'm going to be sitting here and I'm going to be on the Jumbotron.
Yeah, the Jumbotron.
I'm going to have a guy with a big American flag belt buckle
down at the bottom.
And I've always been super patriotic. That's something else I've been guilty because I used to follow politics and like have opinions about wars and
shame on you.
Anyway, She is Geeky. If you haven't read Crisis of Conscience, I think you really should.
Yeah.
Because it will really help you get over a lot of that stuff because
it helps
it's not that you got thrown out as a teenager or you couldn't fit and they were really right. They're wrong about everything. They're wrong about everything. Like even if you turn into mainstream Christian, the precepts that they found their religion on and hang their hat on are vile, twisted concepts of the message of Christ. And I'm not even a believer anymore. So it's like, it's total bullshit and you shouldn't feel guilty.
Sure. That's an excellent book.
I feel like that has been that's been a fairly good lunch with Jim and A.Ron. I don't know if anyone has any other questions for us. We can stick around for another 5 or 10 minutes. We watched History of Violence today. We're getting back on the Commission podcast bandwagon.
Yep.
We're going to maybe get a podcast out for it, or at least record one today for being out next week. We're going to start knocking more of those out.
Yeah.
So
we had built up a backlog over the busy season.
Yeah. But I appreciate. I've been wanting to vent for a while, and I kind of maybe think we should have done this as a podcast. I don't know, but we kind of were too late, and we didn't feel like doing a whole podcast. We didn't think we'd have that much to say, and then we talked for about an hour. So
sure, yeah, it's pretty easy to talk about that stuff, though.
Yeah,
honestly.
Once you wind us up and get us going.
Yeah,
I'm very curious about how this weekend's going to go.
With my mom,
with the birthday party. Yeah. I asked my son because when I found out it's going down, I talked to my kid and I'm like, because he celebrates birthdays and stuff when he's with me.
And
I said, your grandma and your uncle's going to be there, or is it going to make you feel weird if we all do the happy birthday stuff? And he's like, no. I'm like, all right. So because I'm very sensitive.
Good. Why should it? They're the ones who should feel weird.
I know, but I don't want to make him
do
something he's not comfortable with.
Certainly.
Because that's not the way to win.
I'm just glad he has that attitude.
Sure. Yeah.
He's not the one who's weird here.
Let's see here. Wes Stevens has a Better Call Saul question for us.
No, we're not doing. No, I'm kidding.
I'm thinking Chuck's disease is caused by him feeling guilty for how he treated Jimmy.
I could see that.
It's possible,
it's just
but
eating away at his inside.
It seems like it happened in the last year.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think what he did to Jimmy in the last year that would have made it come to a head. I'm very interested in seeing exactly what caused his breakdown. But I don't know. That's a decent theory, though.
Yeah, I don't.
Wes.
I can't tell when the mailroom scene happened. Like, when did he get his law degree? When did he get turned down for a job at HH&M?
Well, he got so it was 10 total years, and he worked
since Slippin' Jimmy got caught and his brother.
And I thought they said it was 7 years in the mailroom, and then I think there's maybe a year of him fucking around and trying to find until he went and
so
started
it'd have
doing,
to be a couple of years interim.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if he's been sick for like 2 years and has progressively got to where he's debilitated and he couldn't leave his house, then maybe that was the one of the prime reactions or the prime motivations for it. But we don't know. We've never heard of Chuck having a family, have we? Like they've never mentioned a wife or a child. Certainly no children. I want to say that maybe they mentioned the wife in the early going.
They might have, yeah, and that she maybe, I don't know, maybe this started after they had problems. I don't know.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I will watch the season again before next season.
Dan Gordon says, A.Ron, how did you get introduced to 1984? Did it open your eyes or did it just confirm things you already felt? I read 1984 in freshman in high school because I was in the gifted and talented program in my high school. And it was one of the books selected for us the literature books to read. And it was one of those transforming experiences where I felt like, very claustrophobic reading it because it was very uncomfortable. And it's one of those things where like, I wish all Jehovah's Witnesses would see the Scientology video because it's devastating to see that pattern in your own life and how destructive it is. And it really shook me up.
Yeah, I came out of that documentary very angry.
Yeah.
At both Scientology and you know, that kind of cult mentality in general.
But it's funny because I shook it off, and I didn't read 1984 again until I think I saw it at a garage sale in my early 20s, and I purchased it for like 25 cents, and I read it again. And I've read it about every other year or so since, and it slowly started chipping away about like, man, all this newspeak shit and this cognitive dissonance and this informing on your friends and loved ones and these methods control are exactly what, I mean, definitely. I gotta say that's probably the first thing that I got involved with that really started prying open my mind an inch. There's like, I could go, I mean, there's probably 10 different things that had to happen in a precise order to get me out of that thing. And I consider myself very lucky.
You know, one of the most disgusting things I think about that Scientology documentary that I didn't know, or that, no, I guess I didn't know it at all. When they do whatever they call their meetings, their consultations,
the auditing.
Yeah. When they do their auditing, they have you on the e-meter and they're saying, remember all these things. They're writing it down.
Blackmail.
And they're saving that material for the day that you decide this is no longer for me. And that's disturbing.
That's one up from what the witnesses do.
I was going to say that that's something that the witnesses don't do. But I can see being very effective.
Sure.
And it's pretty disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know, that there were a lot of reasons I was angry. That the woman whose child, when she was in Sea Org, went to the labor camp thing. There's another woman at the end whose son was getting disconnected,
right? And
she, you know, was trying to fight against it, and she also got disconnected. And then her daughter was like, "Fuck you guys, you're horrible." Brutal.
No, I
remember
the last conversation I had with my mother, and I knew it was the last conversation I had, and that really got me choked up because she was talking about trying to remember all the, and it's such a shock because about every 2 or 3 years I'll see my mom in passing. And it's such a shock because it's like, you know, your parents' is the most familiar face you ever see. Like, you know, you're always seeing them every day, or even if you're far away, you hear their voice.
Yeah.
But it's so surreal to be reintroduced to someone that was so familiar and they're now such a stranger. It's a real shock. But yeah, that was a mind fuck where she's talking about hugging her daughter and trying to remember how she smelled and felt, and like, it's heavy shit, man. It's heavy shit.
Yeah, and it's bullshit too.
All right, I'm out of beer. This is intolerable. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you listening to us vent about some of our life experiences. George Lampman says, thanks, guys. This is great. Thank you guys for supporting us. We wouldn't be able to be doing stuff like this without your guys' support.
Yeah, you're not going to hear this on a podcast, unfortunately.
Probably not. It's kind of a niche thing.
Unless we got into like some kind of
leftovers,
religious or
it came
political.
up a lot on the leftovers.
Yeah, but I mean, not even there. We're not going to go into this kind of depth.
Anywhere.
No. We just don't run that kind of show. So
anyway,
this is where we do it.
Yeah. Thanks for coming out on a Friday, and we really appreciate your support. And we'll be back next week.
We will.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend.